Good evening, councillors and officers, and those who may be watching at home on the live stream. Welcome to the May Council meeting for Corangamite Shire Council. Can I begin with the prayer, please? We ask for guidance and blessing on this council. May the true needs and well-being of our communities be our concern. Help us who serve as leaders to remember that all our decisions are made in the best interests of the people, culture and the environment of the Corangamite Shire. Amen. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land around Corangamite Shire, the Eastern Maar and Wadawurrung people. We pay our respects to all Aboriginal elders and peoples past and present. I'll begin by introducing members of the council and staff who are with us this evening. To my left is Deputy Mayor Geraldine Kennedy, Councillor Joe Beard, Councillor Jamie Vogels, and to my right, Councillor Kate Macon and Councillor Nick Cole. Our CEO, Mr Andrew Mason. To my right, Acting Director of Corporate and Community Services, Mr David Madden. To my left is Mrs Justine Linley, the Director of Sustainable Development, Mr Aaron Moyne, Manager of Planning and Building Services, and Mr Jared Woff, who is the Manager of Facilities and Recreation. Mr CEO, we have an apology this evening and two declarations of conflict of interest, I believe.
That's correct. So Councillor Hickey is an apology for tonight's meeting. In relation to the declarations of conflict of interest, I've got a conflict of interest from Councillor Kennedy in relation to item 7.1, which is the Mount Nurut Management Plan Committee, and a conflict of interest from Councillor Macon in relation to item 9.7, which is the facility design grants.
Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, the minutes of the meeting held on the 26th of April have been circulated. Would someone like to move those minutes, please? Councillor Vogels, do I have a seconder? Councillor Cole. Is there any discussion or questions on the minutes, councillors?
No, thank you.
No, put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. We have no deputations this evening, Mr CEO.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the Mount Nurut Management Committee Annual Report and Committee Appointments. Councillor Kennedy, I believe you have conflicts, so I think you'll leave the chamber, please. Thank you. Mrs Linley, if you could introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Mount Nurut Management Committee is a community asset committee of council and was first established in 2018. It has delegated responsibility for the management and development of Mount Nurut in accordance with the Mount Nurut Management Plan. The committee comprises 10 elected community members, 1 council representative and 2 standing members, Eve Black and Gina Black. Community representatives on the committee are appointed for a 4-year term, with nominations for 5 positions advertised biannually. That advertising process has taken place, and the purpose of this report is to both receive the 2021-22 Mount Nurut Management Committee Annual Report and to appoint the following nominees, if it's the will of council, as community representatives on the Mount Nurut Management Committee for a term until June 2026. Those are representatives nominated by the committee or recommended by the committee are Mr Bernard Kennedy, Jelena Cole, Graham Arkenstall, Robin Allenson and William Kennedy. The report also recommends that the Mount Nurut Committee of Management delegation be updated, revised, to reduce the size of the committee by 1 community member, bringing it to 12 members in total. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs Linley. Councillors, recommendation there. Someone like to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Macon. Seconded by Councillor Cole. Councillor Macon.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. The Mount Nurut is a destination known for its geological and natural values and experience, a place where culture past and present is understood and respected, and where access is provided for all to enjoy. Mount Nurut has an average of 20 visitors a day, or 610 per month, which is quite staggering. Even though this is a decrease in visitation from previous years, which may be attributed to easing of COVID-19 restrictions, allowing local visitors access to other areas, this is still a healthy number of people enjoying this beautiful place and what it has to offer. The committee has recently been able to employ a part-time project officer for 12 months. The project officer will assist the committee to maintain the site and implement the management plan. With funds received from Ashiona Energy Australia Global Priority Limited, the committee are putting these funds towards a new viewing area, walking tracks and associated infrastructure. With regards to the committee nominees, I warmly accept the committee's recommendation by appointing the 5 people that were mentioned before. I feel that these people will bring a broad range of skills to the committee and are happy to accept their 4-year term. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm in favour of moving this motion. I think the committee have been doing a great job. I've looked at that mountain all my life and been happy to look at it. They've seemed to have improved it in the last few years, and the walking tracks around there and things are a great community asset, and it's good to see that they're looking after it. Wedge-tailed eagles nesting in there, which is always a good sign. A fair bit of wildlife and wild people around the edge of it, so I'm happy to move that motion. Thank you.
Thank you. It's just as well Councillor Kennedy's not in the room. Councillors, is there any further comment on this item? I'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Mr Moyne, would you mind grabbing Councillor Kennedy, just letting her know she can come back in before she freezes? Yep. Thank you. Councillors, we'll move on to item 9.2, which is the draft budget for 2022-2023, and I'll ask Mr Madden to introduce this item, please. Thank you, Mr.
Madam Mayor. The draft 22-23 budget for the financial year commencing 1st of July 22 has been developed in consultation with the community, councillors and officers, and with reference to the long-term financial plan, asset management plans and community plans. The budget is a short-term plan which specifies the resources required to fund the Council's services and initiatives over the next 12 months and subsequent 3 financial years. The budget shows an operating profit of $1.8 million, and it's been budgeted with a capital works program of $16.88 million, including a buffer for infrastructure cost increases to accommodate expected inflation. Council's budgeted operating expenditure for 22-23 will be $41 million on a cash basis. This represents an increase of $8.06 million or 24.5% over the 2021 adopted budget. The 22-23 Capital Works program includes a $7.6 million for roads, $1.7 million for buildings, $1.9 million for changeover of plant and equipment, and the 22-23 budget will also have a significant amount of carry forward expenditure associated with a number of high value multi-year projects such as the Port Campbell Streetscape and 12 Apostles Trail. The 22-23 budget maintains Council's sound financial position with a strong commitment to a high standard of services, complemented by a significant capital works program. The 22-23 budget presented to Council is balanced and has regard to the key indicators that reflect Council's financial sustainability. The attached budget has been prepared in accordance with the best practice model budget and constitutes the public document that will be subject to public review. And the recommendations before the Council on page 17 of the agenda.
Thank you, Mr Madden. Councillors, recommendation is there. I'd like to move the recommendation. Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Seconded by Councillor Macon. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My computer won't open up any notes. There it goes. I wasn't expecting to move that seconded, but I will say we are fortunately we're in a good financial position, and we're heading into some unstable times with waste management fees increasing by 9.18%, which for the most part reflects state government levy increases. User fees and charges projected to increase by 3.75% to mirror the costs of increased service delivery. But of major concern is the recent outcome of the Supreme Court regarding wind farms that alters the long-held view of chattels and ownership. So this, in short, if the wind farms get out of paying rates, everyone else has to make up the shortfall, which is rather concerning. The only other thing would be I'll be concerned that our buffer percentage we've put onto the draft budget might not be large enough to allow for the true inflation costs we're seeing out there. But the draft budget will be made available on the council's website following this meeting and for 14 days. So a call for public feedback. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. I don't have much further to add than what Councillor Vogels has put on today. Other than say that the rates and charges account for 43% of the total council revenue, an increase in the rate income is required for council's aspirations and community expectations for new and existing infrastructure. The budget includes a rate increases equal to an estimate of CPI over the next 4 years. Also, the waste management charge has been increased, but this reflects the increases of state government levies, the CPI increase also, and the increase in fuel costs. As it was mentioned by Mr. Madden before, we do spend a fair bit on our roads of $7.6 million, and as we all know, roads are very important to us and how we get around this great shire of ours. But we also have major risks, and that means the economy uncertainty, as we still unknown what the medium to long-term economic impacts will be, particularly regarding to tourism. The high inflation costs, particularly in infrastructure projects, the fuel cost and property valuations. And we don't know what the federal and state governments are going to be doing with our budgets, with their budgets, should I say, as to with grants that will be available to us. So we still have to be mindful of that and make sure we are playing to our strengths. So I'm more than happy for the draft budget to go out for public consultation. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillors, is there anything further? Councillor McNady and Councillor Beard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I think that we actually had a pretty good discussion about this budget when the draft was brought to the briefing. So I feel like, we were very mindful of our council plan. We've always put some emphasis on delivery of services to our community. They do get a priority, and they should. I think we've considered the hard decisions. We had quite a lot of debate about those difficult decisions about where we would allocate our capital projects. But I think with that, we try to remain focused on the projects that we believe are important and that will bring value to the Corangamite community. One of those being the completion of the next stage of the 12 Apostles Trail. I think it's very prudent that we've included a buffer in the capital works program. We do know that we're experiencing inflation already. The escalating price of materials and delays has made it quite difficult to cost projects, and especially when those projects need to be costed along much earlier than any grant funding that we might receive for those same projects. Close to half of the capital works budget will be spent on our roads. We've got building upgrades, plant and equipment, and replacement of information technology, which accounts for about $3.5 million, and we've allocated $377,500 to the community grants programs. I think it's a really good initiative that we're funding an early years trainee program, and I think there's another similar initiative. I just can't think what it is right now. Many people do worry about their rates, that's true, but we've met the requirements of the rate cap, and there is a 1.75% increase. Those rates do make up a substantial proportion of the council revenue, but that revenue does go back to the community through delivery of services and asset renewal and projects. And obviously that's the cash flow that we require to deliver all of that to our community. All the same, for those people that do need assistance with their rates, or do need a program to help them pay those rates, that is available through council, and I would encourage ratepayers to get in touch with council to set up a program to pay their rates if they need that assistance. We have made reserve transfers to our landfill restoration and future large-scale projects. That's an important thing to do. We need to be ready for upcoming expenditure that we know that we must manage. So that's a very wise and sensible thing to do. I'm actually very happy with this draft budget. I think we've met the key financial outcomes. We've got a good balance of allocation across all our strategic objectives. We're budgeting a $1.8 million operating surplus, and we've been mindful of our long-term financial plan with that, and have taken account of potential risks as we're always continue to aim for good financial management.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Beard.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to my fellow councillors. Completely agree with everything that's been said before me. I want to start off by firstly thanking our previous Director of Corporate and Community Services, David Ray, who's no longer with us, of course, and Manager Finance, Adam Taylor, the finance team, and the majority of other staff who have joined us or actually formed the bones of this draft budget. By the time it gets to us, there's already been a lot of work to get it to us, to start the deliberations. And I just want to say, in light of the times that I think any organisation is facing, we really do appreciate the amount of effort that goes in by everybody involved. So I just wanted to say that from the onset. In certain times, or it's times of uncertainty that we all know, we feel it in our household pressures. It's no different in a large organisation like Corangamite Shire, and also other shires around us. But I think what we've always committed to is being the absolute best we can at keeping business as usual, and just being really responsible around our expenditure and looking after what we have before we go and lash out on anything new. I think we've remained to do that in a really strategic and just a really responsible manner. And that's what I'm so proud about this budget again, although it's probably not as exciting, or as I think in terms we've had the word sexy used before. I still think it's responsible that we've still committed to all the services that we continue to be proud of and our communities expect from us, but also I guess being able to realise some of the visions and hopes that those communities have in terms of projects that they'd like to see get up. So I'm really glad that we've got this draft formed together. We've committed to our rate and revenue strategy plan where we reduce the farm rate. Again, we've done that this year, so that should hopefully continue to keep our farmers somewhat happy, but increased the unused industrial land rate, which, if I can use this moment just to say, please, if anybody's sitting on unused industrial land, we need it. We've got people who we really want to come and set up business in our shire. We need it, our communities need it, so I really can't stress enough that if anybody is sitting on some unused industrial land, to make use of it, and please get that on the market if you're not planning on doing anything with it, because our communities would appreciate it. I think, again, I mentioned earlier about no new borrowings. We continue to be really proud of that. What it does is it gives us a buffer in these uncertain times, that if we do have something, a curveball thrown at us, then we've got some flexibility. We all know, it's been mentioned earlier about inflation, fuel costs, our retail industry, our tourism industry, our small business industry is still doing it really tough. So there may be curveballs come down the track where we need to step in and continue to help. So at least we've got that flexibility. The carry forwards, we always seem to have those. I'm not too worried about that. I think we've certainly identified that we need to take a bit of pressure off our organisation in terms of project delivery. There's been a massive works agenda, and that comes at a cost when you think about the amount of staff we have and continue to be able to keep that business as usual happening as well as getting those project deliveries ticked off. So we've been really mindful in forming this budget that we don't want to take on too much more to be able to facilitate the ones that are already in progress, to get them ticked off and just keep things balanced. I do want to make a mention of a couple of really great initiatives from an organisation perspective, and Councillor Kennedy tapped on it, is around a trainee program for our early years. And just to elaborate on that, was a traineeship and apprenticeship initiative, which is basically wrapping our arms around those younger people within our community. And I guess they probably don't even have to be younger people, but just growing our own and letting them see that local government is a great place to work and it's got a great future for them. So I'm really proud of that initiative that we can put up. There's also a stage 2 for those people that have been interested in stage 1 of the blue-green algae issue out at Lake Bullamary. We assessed what has happened so far, but our summer, as we've turned out in the last few years, hasn't always ran to the typical summer months. So we're actually looking at pushing out that trial for an extra couple of months as first planned, to try and get a real snapshot of comparison from one year to another. So stage 2 will hopefully see that really come to light on what the outcome of that trial will provide the feedback for us. So it can be a bit of a bland draft budget to read from previous budgets over the years, and I have to admit, when we get the budget packs now, there's not as many pages to read. It doesn't mean the work isn't as important, or it doesn't mean as much to our communities, but we are really mindful to look after what we've got and keep the services ticking over that we already have and that our communities expect. So thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very supportive of this draft budget.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, is there anything further? I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. And as mentioned, it is a draft budget. It will be available on Council's website, I would imagine this evening or first thing tomorrow. And if anybody has any comment to make on the budget, we'd really appreciate hearing from you. That's open for about the next fortnight. So please put in a submission if you're interested. Councillors, item 9.3 is the asset management policy, and I'll ask Mr. Woff to introduce it. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the asset management policy provides clear direction for management of Council's assets and defines the key principles for how Council will deliver on those assets. The policy is supported by asset management plans for our roads and road-related infrastructure, our buildings, our recreation open space infrastructure, the urban street trees, and of course our fleet. In accordance with Council's policy development framework, a review of the asset management policy has been undertaken with only minimal changes proposed. The review policy includes references to the Local Government Act 2020 and the requirement to have a 10-year asset plan. The policy will assist Council to manage its assets effectively and ensure that future financial sustainability. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Woff. Councillors, there's a recommendation to revoke the previous asset management policy and adopt the new one. Someone like to move that, please? Councillor Beard, can I have a seconder? Councillor Kennedy, Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. Not too much to say to this one, other than it's just been in line, obviously, with the release of the update, I should say, of the Local Government Act dated 2020. I think we should be really proud of the fact that we've always had a really stringent and trusting asset management plan already in place for a long, long time now. So there's not too much change to what we need to do. Obviously, there's a long-term asset plan that's expected of us now, but I mean, the fact that our staff have already been answerable and working to an asset management plan really doesn't mean much change for us. I think it's something that we should be really proud of, that we continue to do that, produce it. I think there's a lot of councils that will be doing some of this for the first time. If not, we could always say the state government could probably do some of that to a degree too, but we've always been proud of our asset management plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Beard, too, for your eloquent assessment of things. I did read that we have 13 classes of assets that currently have a replacement value of around $644 million. So that's a lot. It's a lot of value in that. So it's obviously very important that we monitor those assets, make sure they're up to standard, make sure they're safe, because these assets are things that the community are using every day, like our roads and our footpaths, playgrounds, our buildings. So certainly important part of council's work, and the policy is underpinning the processes to ensure that all those assets are kept up to standard and useful for as long as they should be. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillors, anything further? All in favour? It's carried. Item 9.3 is Child Safe Policy Review 2022. Mr. Madden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The current child safe policy was adopted by Council in July 2020. Due to reforms in Victorian standards coming into effect from 1st of July 22, the revised policy readies Council to be compliant with the updated Victorian Child Safe standards. These standards have been aligned with the National Child Safe principles, and Council is required to comply with the Victorian Child Safe standards. The purpose of this revised policy is to demonstrate Council is committed to the safety and well-being of all children and young people and has a zero tolerance for child abuse. The policy details how Council complies with the Victorian Child Safe standards and how it will operate as a child safe organisation. The Child Safe policy will support Council to continue to foster a child safe environment where children and young people are respected, valued and encouraged to reach their full potential, and where all children and young people have a right to be safe and feel safe. The revised policy will ensure Council is positioned to comply with the new standards commencing the 1st of July this year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. Councillors, recommendation revoking the previous child safe policy and adopting the new policy. I'd like to move that, please. Thank you, Councillor Macon. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Canadian. Thank you, Councillor Macon.
All right, thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. I think the first paragraph says a lot as to what Mr. Madden said before. The purpose of this revised policy is to demonstrate Council is committed to the safety and well-being of all children and young people and has a zero tolerance for child abuse. This is really important for the kids of, or the children of this Shire to know that that's something that's happening within our organisation. There have been 11 revised Victorian standards that have been mentioned in here, in this policy, and that we had to update on this policy as well. But protecting and safety and well-being of children and young people is everyone's responsibility, regardless of anyone's position within the organisation, and we should all be thinking and looking for these practices of protecting children and young people from abuse every day, not just when it's something that's brought to our mind as such as this child safe policy. So I'm more than happy to move this policy and make it in line with the new recommendations that have come on board. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillor Canady.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you. Parents are sending their children out into the community every day to schools, kindergartens, and they're relying on those organisations to care for and protect their children. This is a very high priority for this council, and one of the most important roles that we have in the delivery of our kindergarten and childcare services and other council activity. So it's a very important policy. It's very important for our community. It applies right across our organisation in all kinds of scenarios, and it does commit to providing child-safe education and training within our organisation and embedding a culture that supports child safety and well-being. So I'm very much supportive of the updated policy. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Canady. Councillors, is there anything further? Put it to vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.4 is the Business Continuity Framework and Policy Review. Mr Madden.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The Business Continuity Framework deals with events that would disrupt the Council's business operations and the actions required to maintain the provision of services. The Business Continuity Framework, including the sub-plans, have undergone a revision and a rewrite in accordance with the relevant Australian and New Zealand standards. The VAGO report Business Continuity during COVID-19 has also informed the review. The Business Continuity Framework and Business Continuity Policy were reviewed and approved by the Audit and Risk Committee at its March meeting. This report recommends that Council adopts the revised Business Continuity Policy, revokes the earlier policy and notes the revised Business Continuity Framework. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Madden. Councillors, someone like to move the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Beard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Macon. Thank you, Councillor Beard.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, I'm sure everyone's thinking, what is she going to speak to this about? But no, this is a really important policy, and the fact that the Audit and Risk Committee have already ticked off on it just means that they hold it in great stead too. We've seen it in the past when we've had issues happen, and to the community they expect just everything to roll on as normal, and we try to keep things in-house, and under the water our feet are going crazy and on the surface we look fine. It's because of frameworks and plans like this that enable us as an organisation to continue on with that. And obviously there's been a lot happen over the last couple of years that have helped inform the revision of such a framework, so it's important that we take that into account, we update it, and then, as I said, it gives the organisation direction when the unforeseen happens, and hopefully we don't need it, but it is just a bit of clarity for when we do need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing further to add. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, is there anything further on this item? Put to a vote, all in favour? Carried. Item 9.5, Essential Safety Measures Policy Review 2022. Mr Woff, can you introduce this item, please?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, the Essential Safety Measures Policy aims to ensure that essential safety standards in council-owned and occupied buildings is maintained and complies with the appropriate regulation, legislation and Australian standards. The policy review proposes some amendments to update the reference to the current council plan, the Local Government Act, and update it in line with the building code. The policy is a necessary policy which reflects the need to ensure that council-owned and occupied buildings meets the requirements of the National Construction Code. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr Woff. Councillors, someone move this recommendation, please. Councillor Cole, do I have a seconder? Councillor Vogels. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is mainly procedural, but it's more than that as well. It's making sure that the buildings that the council owns, everything is up to scratch and safe. Fire, automatic sliding doors, exit doors, signage, fire extinguishers, all things that are important nowadays in a building. So I think it's a very important policy that needs to be kept up to scratch. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Not a lot to add. I think this is a very important policy that that things are maintained at a safe standard, and I think we're lucky that we've got a good ground team that is keeping everything up to scratch and on standard. Don't see any problems coming through, but it's good to have a policy to back it up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vogels. Councillors, nothing further. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.6 is the Camperdown Production Precinct Servicing Master Plan. Mr Moyne, I'll ask you to introduce this item, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and through you I present Council with this report to provide an update and project overview of the upcoming Camperdown Production Precinct Servicing Master Plan. Project planning is being finalised and the project will formally commence in June 2022 with the final master plan to be delivered for Council adoption in May 2023 before progressing with implementation actions and a planning scheme amendment. The master plan is a key strategic planning project that will provide a vision and framework to support and attract industrial expansion and manufacturing that will position Corangamite Shire as a state significant dairy, rural processing, food production and industrial location. A planning horizon of 30 years will be adopted to support this long-term growth. The need for the master plan arises from the Corangamite industrial strategy and aligns with our council plan, seeking to plan for infrastructure that will enable industry and business growth, including planning for emerging industries and industrial precincts in strategic locations, along with infrastructure needs. Council has been successful in obtaining project funding from the Victorian Planning Authority through its Streamlining for Growth program to complement Council's budgeted funding contribution. The master plan will involve comprehensive visioning, analysis and planning to deliver a long-term master plan and servicing plan that will provide a deliverable and serviced land supply. This includes identification of servicing and infrastructure needs to leverage future funding opportunities and stakeholder collaboration. The report outlines the project objectives and scope, along with the project timeline and key dates for public engagement and consultation. A project working group will be established to support project planning and delivery, including a central ward councillor as chair, landowners and community representatives. Completion of the production precinct master plan is a key to coordinating and unlocking future industrial development and investment opportunities that capitalise on Corangamite's strengths. The recommendation is provided before you.
Thank you, Mr. Moyne, and it's great to have Kristen Wilkes here with us this evening. Kristen, who is a strategic planner, will be leading the project team and leading through this very important project for Camperdown and for the Shire more broadly. Councillors, there's a recommendation there around the project working group, noting Mr. Moyne's report, but also nominating a central ward councillor to perform the position as chair of the working group. Can I have someone to move the recommendation to nominate a central ward councillor, please? Councillor Beard, you're happy to move?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm happy to move I'll obviously note the report and endorse the project working group, but also nominate Councillor Laurie Hickey as the nominated chairperson from the central ward, please.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Macon. I have spoken to Councillor Hickey and he is happy to take on that role, which is good. Councillor Beard, do you want to talk to this item?
Yes, certainly, and this is an exciting project. Obviously, as Mr. Moyne identified, it was way back in 2013 when we did the industrial land strategies that it was identified that Camperdown needed such a project like this. So it has eventually got to our table again, but it's great to have our strategic planner, Kristen, on board to help lead this project along with Mr. Moyne and the rest of the planning team. These things don't happen overnight, and so it is going to be quite a process, but we really need the involvement from the community to help, direct this project in which in how they want to see it pan out. I think it's going to be a great coup for not only Corangamite, for Camperdown, I should say, but for the Corangamite Shire. And as I've mentioned to my fellow councillors and officers, it's of no disregard to our other townships who have up and going industrial precincts themselves, but this is a significant project for Camperdown itself, and who knows the direction in terms of what industry will actually place themselves here in Camperdown. But it's all about unlocking that ability, which currently it doesn't have. There's a lot of services that need help in enabling infrastructure here in Camperdown. So we've heard it over the years, and now this is a significant project that has come through council plan, an action plan, and is now hopefully being endorsed by council here tonight to actually see that come to fruition. So I'm happy to move the recommendation that's before us tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillor Macon.
Thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor, more than happy to support this recommendation and support it. As it's been mentioned before, Camperdown Dairy have recently built in this precinct and have invested $5 million into their project, and employment is between 10 and 15 full-time equivalent staff. And there's other interest within businesses relocating to this precinct as well, which is, as Councillor Beard has said, it's only great for not only Camperdown but great for the rest of the Shire and everyone else involved with it. So I'm more than happy to nominate Councillor Hickey to the reference group, and hopefully we get a good outcome within 12 months' time. So that'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Macon. Councillors, is there anything further? Councillor Kennedy, then Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think this project recognises the opportunity and the necessity to plan for enabling infrastructure for industry and business growth in Corangamite, and certainly at the Camperdown Production Precinct. We've got a really fantastic opportunity there. I think it's visionary. We need a high quality business park in Camperdown, and as Councillor Beard said, it's not to preclude any of the other towns in the Shire. They're important too, but this one's the one that's in front of us now and ready to go. It also speaks to Council's commitment to position the Shire to attract future economic development and investment. I think too that the fact of Camperdown Dairy and Australasian Solutions already having invested at the Camperdown precinct validates the project that we're undertaking and suggests the opportunities that we have here and in other towns in the Shire, because we need to do what we can to increase our local productivity and prosperity. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. Councillor Vogels.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for Councillor Hickey for going on the nominating to go on. Thanks to all the other speakers, Councillor Beard, Councillor Makin and Councillor Kennedy. We'll just add to the master plan for any major changes to unlock developments is extremely important. And this is important that we show a long-term vision, and this is how we gain community acceptance and support, by having an actual master plan out there. So I'm happy to go along with everyone. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Vogels. And it certainly is, it's vital, as you say, to have this master plan. We're looking at a 30-year vision, and certainly, the issue around enabling infrastructure like effluent treatment, natural gas, the power upgrades are all really vital to a precinct, an industrial precinct. So to get the plan done is certainly going to help us in our cause, I hope, to attract funding from state and federal government to see this come to fruition. So, councillors, if there's nothing further, I'll get to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Item 9.7, Facility Design Grants Round 2 Funding. Councillor Makin, I believe you've got a conflict of interest. Thank you. Mr. Wolf, can I ask you to introduce this item, please?
Yes, thank you, and through you, Madam Mayor. This report is to consider the allocation of funds for Round 2 of Council's Facility Design Grants program for 2021-2022. The program provides funding to enable sporting clubs to fund their schematic designs for redevelopment of existing facilities or to consider new facilities which support the principles of universal design and relevant state sporting association facility development guidelines. Funding of up to $5,000 is available to eligible applicants, and Round 2 of the grant program closed in April this year. In total, 4 grant submissions were received, requesting a total of $17,541. Following review, an application from Timberton Recreation Reserve was identified as ineligible as a request for retrospective funding for a project that they'd already completed. The remaining 3 applications were evaluated independently in accordance with the Facility Design Grants assessment criteria, and the project evaluation panel has recommended that all 3 Facility Design Grant applicants are funded in this round. Councillors, the recommendation is before you.
Thank you, Mr. Wolf. Councillors, this recommendation allocating the facility design grants to 3 organisations. Can someone move that recommendation? Councillor Cole, seconder. Councillor Beard. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think these are, when you read through them, they're nothing outstanding, but they're essential. If this was in the city, they would have already been built, all these facilities. They're female-friendly change rooms and toilets, accessible amenities upgrades. Just they'd be basic part of infrastructure in the city nowadays, and we're still having to do with substandard facilities out in the country. So I think this is a great way to keep the ball rolling, get it up to standard. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Beard.
Yes, through you, Madam Mayor. I think this is just another layer to when we did the rec reserve master plans, and we got that feedback from what was on their wish list or what their vision was and what those facilities actually needed. This is another layer to those facilities actually coming through to fruition and building the business case to actually having those projects ticked off on. As we know, no funding gets announced without collateral behind it, and obviously planning is a huge part of that. So we've got the master planning behind it. We'll have the schematic designs, and I really hope that this will now help these particular organisations in getting what they actually want to achieve out of these projects. It's interesting, once again, Crown land organisations and our community having to go in and try and get whatever they can, and it's really tough. And as we've seen at a federal budget, we have no idea what the future holds in terms of availability of funding, grant funding coming there now, and even with the state government, we just don't know. So all we can do is help support these organisations to do the best job they can to actually be shovel ready, and hopefully this helps them gain the funding that they require to actually see these projects through. So thank you.
Terrific. Thank you, Councillor Beard. Councillors, anything further? To a vote, all in favour? Carried. Next, Mr Mason. Item 9.9, councillors, is the quick response grants for May 2022. Mrs Lindley, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This report is to consider the May allocation of funds as part of the Quick Response Grants program. Applications for this program are considered as they are received and are assessed against criteria including alignment with the council plan, benefit to the community and eligible expenditure. The annual budget allocation for the program is $17,500. Applications for May have been received from the Power Creek Reserve Committee of Management, from the Cobden and District Pony Club. Can I also note, Madam Mayor, that allocation will come from the Southwest Ward, not from the South Central Ward. The Noorat and District Progress Association, the Rotary Club of Camperdown, the Camperdown Bridge Club, and the Camperdown Botanic Gardens and Arboretum Trust. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
And the Cobden Historical Society?
Oh, yes, and the Cobden Historical Society.
I might be watching this evening.
Yes. Apologies, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mrs Lindley. Councillors, so I'd like to move a recommendation that these grants be allocated as outlined. Councillor Cole.
It's always Councillor Cole.
Councillor Cole, this is your favourite item. Do I have a seconder? That would be Councillor Kennedy. Thank you. Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Once again, I've spoken about this a lot of times now. These meant a lot to organisation. I mean, Camperdown Bridge Club replacing broken card tables. You can't function on a bridge table without a good table. So all these small grants make a big difference to them. As I said, the Botanical Gardens buying new tools to fix the gardens, and the Camperdown Rotary Club for a television set. They make a world of difference to a small organisation, and they're quick and easy and happy. Everyone's happy, and it's not always the big things we do. Sometimes it's the little things, and it makes a big difference to the community. So I have no trouble moving this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, this is always the fun item of the meeting, and Councillor Cole loves it more than any of us. But yeah, it is a pleasure, and to be able to help out these organisations with materials that are essential for them to continue doing their work. But I will remind our communities that we still do have some money remaining. We've got one more month left where you can take advantage of that. So I'd certainly encourage any organisations in Corangamite community to have a look and see if there's something that we can help them with and apply next month. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Kennedy. And this is an ongoing grant program, so if there is something that your organisation needs and you can't get your application in the next month, There are funds available at this point in time for South Central, South West and the Central Ward, but this grant program will renew on the 1st of July, so there'll be another $17,500 available for the next financial year. Councillors, nothing further, we'll put it to a vote. All in favour? Carried. Councillors, item 10 is other business. Does anyone have anything they'd like to raise? Councillor Beard? Councillor Macon?
Yes, and through Madam Mayor, and I'm sorry this is without notice, but I really want to just put out, while I've got the public's attention, is a reminder on the Cobden structure plan process that's playing out at the moment. And just whilst I've got Mr Moyne here, I'd like to say a special thank you to him for his support in the continuing formation of this plan. It's really pivotal that we have the community in the Cobden and surrounds, and anybody else in any other township that would like to have a say in the future of Cobden and its structure, to please, now is the time to speak up, even if it's the most smallest thing that you think of around anything to do with the structuring of the Cobden township in years to come. Now's the time to speak up, whether it's small, whether it's large. We're really wanting as much feedback as we can. There's ample opportunity via drop-in session. There's a street walk and also a town meeting at the Civic Hall coming up. So for further details, go to the Corangamite Shire website page, or you can also, I'm happy for people to contact me if they want some more information. But it really is pivotal that we get as much of this right as we can while we've got this opportunity. It's around obviously planning for the growth of the town, so looking at the town boundary, the protection of the Cobden Aerodrome, and just, I guess, facilitating what can be sustainable in the future for the township. So I just want to take the opportunity to remind people now is the time to speak up. The online form that can be filled out, if no one has access to that, it is actually really easy, but we need the feedback to form part of our next steps. So yeah, can't stress highly enough how important it is to get that feedback.
So there's information on council website with the dates and times of the various sessions and the feedback form.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Councillor Macon.
Oh, thank you. And without notice again, sorry, Madam Mayor, Timboon's up for an award. So I must get all the public out there voting for Timboon. It's up for the Top Tiny Town Tourism Award for population under 1,500. So you need to go on the Victorian Tourism Industry Council website or the Corangamite Shire website or Facebook page and go in there and vote for Timboon, because we'd love to get gold this year. We got silver last year and we'd love to go up for gold. You don't have to be part of the, you don't have to be a resident in the Shire. You can be anywhere. So get all your family and friends, anyone you know, to vote for Timboon. That would be great. And voting closes, I'm pretty sure, at the end of this month. But I'd like to thank also Miss Lindley and her staff for all the everything they've put together to put our nomination in, and also a special mention to Mark Cuthell for all the videoing and all the everything, all the contents that he's put into it. He's a master down there in Port Campbell, and he's done a great job with the video again. It's a great video, and we've got local people involved in the video, so that's all even better. So vote for Timboon. Hopefully we get gold this year. Thank you.
Certainly we thoroughly enjoyed getting silver last year, but we'd like to knock Port Fairy off and take home the gold this year, so jump on and vote. Councillors, there's open forum, but we don't have anybody joining us this evening in the gallery. So on that note, I'll take this opportunity of thanking you for your attendance this evening. Thanks to everyone who's watching, and I'll now formally close the meeting. Thank you.